Dragon Age the Veilguard executive producer claims that the Dragon Age team got no support from BioWare or from EA. I think they got way too much support because this game never should have ever been made, and it should have been axed before it was published, and the propaganda that it contained was spread throughout the globe. Roll this up over at phantompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. So this comes from Mark Darrah. He was like the number 2 guy over at Dragon Age, I think. Might have been the number 1 guy at Dragon Age. Was one of the top guys at BioWare, especially around like 2016, 2017, 2018. Before I think he eventually ended up leaving. I'm not sure when he did that, but he did eventually leave before Veilguard was completed. I think it was around the time when they decided to turn it into a multiplayer game. But he provided a timeline where he claimed that BioWare and EA were not supporting its Dragon Age teams, especially at the end of 2016 and into the beginning of 2017 when the company was attempting to ship Mass Effect Andromeda. He said in a recent YouTube upload, in late 2016, we are reaching the point when Mass Effect Andromeda is trying to ship. It has been grabbing resources from around BioWare for a while, but in this last push, we reach a decision, that is different than anything we have done in BioWare's history, at least in recent memory. And that is I actually led this final team that came on to Mass Effect Andromeda. My feeling at the time was the Dragon Age team was feeling jerked around. They were feeling like we were getting no support from BioWare or from EA, which was basically true. However, he did later note this. In the case of Mass Effect Andromeda, I don't think the impact to Dragon Age was huge. It wasn't very long, but it did set this precedent as being a thing that we could do, and it's not a good thing to do. It is incredibly dangerous to have a project run while it's missing some of its core leadership, and I think this would actually happen again with Anthem, as he later documents in the video. Interestingly, while he claims that BioWare was not providing support for Dragon Age, he would later note how EA changed its business structure in 2016 and had BioWare reporting to an individual who was hyper interested in us and really wanted to be involved in the day-to-day in the decision-making on the project, instead of the sports division, who was disinterested and allowed BioWare to operate more independently. He went on to reveal that this new management group was not interested in Andromeda and quickly moved on from it because it was created before it took over and was more interested in working on the next project so that they could show themselves as having influence on the development of it. Nevertheless, Darrah would go on to share his opinion that even after Andromeda shipped, that Dragon Age was not getting enough support. He said, I was feeling like Dragon Age was still not getting adequate support. We hadn't gotten the people from Montreal that were supposed to come on to Dragon Age. They were still doing stuff with Andromeda, and I went to Patrick Soderlund at the time and said, I don't feel like I'm getting the support from the organization that Dragon Age deserves. I don't feel like I'm getting the support from the organization that Dragon Age needs. And from Patrick, as well as EA CEO Andrew Wilson, I got lots of assurances that Dragon Age was incredibly important, that we were going to get what we needed, what we wanted. He then revealed he was even given stock in order to convince him to stay. He described this as financial handcuffs to tie him to the organization. Darrah then moved on to when Casey Hudson was rehired at BioWare and how his hiring led to BioWare shifting its focus to Anthem, with himself as well as the Montreal team that were supposed to be working on Dragon Age were moved over to Anthem. He then claimed that the Montreal team was lied to and that the Dragon Age team didn't want them and that they were going on to other parts of the EA organization because BioWare couldn't keep them anymore. Whereas he says that he wanted them and he wanted them to work on Dragon Age, but they were basically lied to and said that Dragon Age didn't want them, and that's that. From there, he concluded by observing how EA wanted the Dragon Age game to be turned into a multiplayer live service game, and it was also focusing on the live service Anthem, and had in effect become a fundamentally different company after 2017. So that is what Mark Darrah basically had to say in his video, which you can watch here if you want to. Again, link in the description below. But he's saying that they didn't get enough support, etc. But then he says that the leadership that they changed to was actually really hyper-focused on the project. So a little bit of a contradiction there. He does also talk about how his video can be interpreted as him just kind of complaining, and he tries to refute that. I do definitely feel like he is kind of putting some of his personal grievances into it, but I do think he also makes a good argument by the fact that he says he's like the number 2 person over there, and the fact that they weren't consulting him on a lot of this stuff and just going over his head would be a reason for why he might be personally aggrieved, and why a number of the other people that had been working at BioWare for a long time might not really like what was going on. In fact, I think he basically concurs that the meme that goes around about EA buying up companies and then eventually like spitting them out and turning them into EA is accurate. It just took them about 9 years to do that with BioWare. But that is what he had to say. Again, they shouldn't have even been putting any kind of support on this. I wish they didn't support it at all. I wish he was actually telling the truth here, that they got no support from BioWare or from EA. So this game could never have been made, because it shouldn't have been made, because it is literally trying to encourage people to mutilate themselves. And it's absolutely disgusting, and stuff like that should not be made. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.
Why would you be afraid of the people? Why are you not afraid of God instead of man?